I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil.
All right. Welcome everyone to the latest episode of the Feckless Snoozecast. We got a very important episode for you.
What episode? Is this episode 12?
Yeah,
what episode
12.
Is this? So already losing track.
I've done so many.
Yes, this is the Feckless Musecast. I'm Ben Timothy Chalamet Sandworm D'Alessio. That's what that says down there.
And I'm Joe Space Garza. So
there we go.
So yeah, I've got a bunch of things to talk about today. One of the things we want to talk about is Dune. We both saw Dune.
Yeah, so I am okay with spending the next approximate hour and a half solely discussing why the sandworm is a symbol of the patriarchy. Are you interested in going on this endeavor with me?
Yeah, I'm fine with upgrading our StreamYard service to get like the unlimited streaming. So that we just talk for the next 4 or 5 hours. I think that'll be good.
Only about this.
Yeah. I think that's a good use of time.
So we'll spend today discussing Dune and kind of sci-fi generally, I guess. If you've listened to the last few episodes, we've been discussing horror a lot for October. Yeah. And Dune came out, and I'm a big sci-fi. I don't know if I'd say like I'm a sci-fi nerd, but it's definitely one of my favorite genres. I don't know about you, Joe, if you're a big sci-fi guy, but
I'm not, but I do enjoy sci-fi.
All right, well, that'll be the end of the show. And
thanks for coming out, everybody.
There.
See you next week. No, actually, I do enjoy sci-fi. It's not my favorite genre, but I think for me to be interested in checking out a sci-fi movie, there has to be something about it that stands out from other sci-fi movies. It's sort of like, okay, it can't just be robots in space. Like there's got to be some really cool story,
a lot do just kind of fall into like space westerns, which you know, that was definitely like 50s and 60s sci-fi a lot, kind of pre-Dune actually, because the first novel came out in 1965, I believe. I've heard this dichotomy before that everyone kind of in our, I don't know if creative is the right word, but like our kind of pop culture camps, we were either sci-fi or fantasy growing up. Were you one of those, or no? Were you just out of the binary?
I was out of the binary.
You're non-binary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're non-binary. All right. Yeah, I was actually fantasy, and if I had to pick one, if it was like gun to my head, I could only consume one genre or the other for the rest of my life. I actually would go fantasy. I know I've discussed. I like knights and dragons and orcs and shit. Like I grew up on that, playing Warcraft and Lord of the Rings, Warcraft, and now of course Game of Thrones was like is my favorite property. The novels and the show until the last like half of the last season. And I'm very excited for the prequel. But that being said, sci-fi, I've actually, as I've gotten older, I've enjoyed sci-fi more because I think sci-fi lends itself more to the predicting the future. I mean, that sounds kind of redundant because it's like sci-fi, it's almost always in the future. Right. But I mean, like even our present future, like things like tech, AI, space travel, those sorts of things. Right. We are headed in that direction. Yeah. It's kind of funny that Dune, and then after this, we will get into Dune, but Dune is almost, it's kind of like the horseshoe because we're going to talk about like Dune is kind of post-tech in a way. A lot of people, I don't think, understood that going in. They're like, why are they fighting with swords? Like, why don't they have laser beams and shit? It's like, it was actually interesting. And I'm not Dune expert by any means, like not even close. Right. I've read the first book. I've listened to some podcasts on it, read articles. I just find it interesting. What I say is, this is going to be a very distilled kind of comment, but that's usually what most comments are. Dune, and this is for you Harry Potter plebes out there, which I'm not one. Dune is to Ravenclaw what Star Wars is to Gryffindor. It's like, and I think if you, and I'm sure there's Slytherin and Hufflepuff out there too, we could make the analyses, but the comparisons. But Dune it's not for everyone. So, and it's notoriously difficult to adapt to the screen because of the lore and the breadth of the story. That being said, so because last time we talked, you weren't sure if you were going to see it, right?
Yeah, and then I ended up seeing it last Friday night at Universal Studios, the City Walk there, and I really enjoyed it. I think one of the things that was kind of coloring my experience was I had some food poisoning, and it was a late screening.
What?
It was
Wait, you went to the movies with food poisoning?
Yeah, so maybe. Well, so here's the thing. So I'm not a coffee drinker really, but I got there's like this
you just drank coffee. You didn't have food poisoning. You just drank coffee once and shit yourself.
No, hold on. Well, there's more to the story. So first off, I
was going to have so much sympathy for you because I've had food poisoning and it's really. Go ahead.
Well, hold on. Okay, so I got this.
You was called a Joe Biden at the movie theater.
I got this Death Wish coffee. And I like to do Skull and Crossbones.
Jesus Christ, dude.
So here's the thing.
You don't drink coffee and you got Death Wish?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't even drink that. I drink like 3-4 cups a day.
So I didn't start the day off right.
Clearly. That's understatement.
And then get a load of this. For lunch, I had fish. So I think it was just kind of like, and it was discounted fish. It was fish that was like on the last day of expiration.
Your body was like, dude, stop. Yeah. Like, stop doing this to us. What are you doing?
My anal tract was like a fucking sandworm. Like, it was just like it was just so I was struggling with and it's a dense movie. It's there's like right off the bat there's like all this. We're gonna do a lot of exposition about the warring families and spice and all this stuff. So yeah, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and it's like, okay, like I've got these sharp stomach pains, and I'm starting to doze off a little bit, and so it's like, but even then, it still managed to keep my attention. I still really enjoyed it overall. What were your thoughts on the film?
I thought it was excellent. For a different, it's very long.
Yeah,
and I thought so. What I said in my mini pocket review of it, if I had to trust one contemporary director to handle Dune, I'd probably pick Denis Villeneuve. He did Arrival and Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. And
I think he kind of put this, like, Dune had a what's the term? Like, it had an ethos to it, and it had this feel of both futuristic, which is it takes place 8,000 years in the future, I think, approximately.
I think so.
And it felt like clean and futuristic, but still gritty in a way. And because of that, has like the lack of lightsabers and other kind of alien forms and things like that. Of course, besides the sandworms, but it had it had something to say, and it wasn't all over the place. Like, it wasn't campy at all. It was very serious. I don't, there's not much I didn't like. I think that just the story itself lends itself to being a difficult thing to put on screen, because you can't describe things on screen like you can in a novel. And I think they did an excellent job of adapting it.
Yeah.
Of course, in the beginning there's kind of the exposition dump that I like. You don't always want that, but this is one of the movies where you kind of need it. Like, if you don't have that, I think you're just gonna be too lost right up the bat. And again, so I'm coming from the position of a viewer who has no background in the IP. Like, this isn't me personally, but I'm thinking of it that way. Someone who really doesn't know it. I thought some of the like the world building was excellent. I would have even liked to see some more. I mean, again, this was only part one, and they come out and say it right away. They say this is part one. I think the sequel wasn't greenlit immediately, but it was shortly after the first weekend. I think it was already greenlit, unless it really bombed and like no one was asked, because that does happen. Movies like no one's asking for a sequel to this, but you need one here, and it did very well. I would have liked to see more world building somewhere, but again, it's part one of a huge story. I mean, they definitely did the bait and switch with some characters, like Zendaya was one of those. I think she didn't have a line to like the last scene, maybe.
Yeah.
She was to get a younger female demographic in the seats, and to be honest, she was barely in it. So I would have been kind of pissed if you're only going for that reason, which I think not many people were. I would have liked, so if you've seen the 1984 version, which I haven't in a very long time, it's a lot. Well, it's very 80s. Which has its own cool, ethos or whatever to it, but it definitely is not the Villeneuve vision, I should say.
Yeah.
But one thing I liked about it more, which I wish. So I pronounce it. I know. So it's technically pronounced Harkonnen. The Vladimir and the Harkonnens are like the bad guys, right? And it's a bunch of bad guys, but I like Harkonnen, so that's how I'm going to say it, because I think it sounds better to me. The first time I ever heard it said out loud, and the way I read it was Harkonnen, but it's technically supposed to be Harkonnen. I don't give a shit, so I'm going to come off right off the bat and say that. I wish
it's your belated birthday, so I'll you do whatever you want.
My birthday's in June.
Belated birthday boy.
Yeah, I like Harkonnen, and I say that because I one thing I liked about the 84 version was how kind of like disgusting Vladimir Harkonnen was in that one. He was really just like the boils and just like his slobber and just like like just like his face mouth was just disgusting. And you didn't have that here. This one was kind of more like brooding and evil. And also it didn't have the whole like kind of in the book. One of the best visuals in the book was how Frank Herbert first describes the Harkonnens like basically being carried on by wires like a marionette or something. And it was so visually appealing because they're so fat and disgusting and lazy that they like have wires and they kind of float around like a monkey, like a marionette monkey or something. And they didn't have that here. I mean, it's a small complaint, but I was kind of looking forward to that. Here, I think it's kind of like floats around, or maybe there were even strings, but they were so thin. I don't even really remember. I thought the body suit armor was really cool, and that's really important for understanding the story. Why they don't use guns, because the armor can stop fast-moving projectiles, but it can't stop, slower moving. So like basically it stops bullets, but doesn't stop a sword or something like that. What are you making there?
I'm making a Lemmy cocktail. So
a what?
Lemmy, as in like Motorhead.
Oh, yeah. Lemmy. What's that? I thought it's not just a bunch of like whiskey and HIV.
No, it's whiskey, Coke, and so it's basically Jack and Coke, but you put in some Angostura bitters.
Okay.
And some lime. But I'm listening. No, I loved all of the aesthetic elements. So the costumes were terrific. The set design was terrific.
Very hunky. If you're in the for a hunky movie, if guys, if you're getting your wife or girlfriend or maybe your gay man, whichever way you swing, and you just need to get him in the seat. Just tell him it's a hunkosaurus cast.
Except for the lead actor, he's kind of a wisp of a human being.
Chalamet, but he's hot in his own way. He's got his own kind of classic regalness to him. That's not, and it's a nice foil to the Jason Momoa, Oscar Isaac, Javier Bardem kind of also classic. I'd say actually more classically tall, dark, and handsome.
Right.
But anyway, so what were your thoughts again? Sorry.
Oh yeah. All the visual elements were terrific. I love how it had a very distinctive, and also very like coherent visual style that kind of permeated, the costume design and set design. And I love how just over the top it was. Like, and I think that's one of the things that draws me to. That would have to be a real draw for me to want to go see a sci-fi films. It's got to look and feel a lot different than other generic sci-fi movies. And I love how they just went and the design of the ships were terrific too. Like they reminded me of like sci-fi book covers from the 60s and 70s, where she's really over the top and just like
they seem like like what I liked about them is so in this future. You know, someone will correct me on the lore, and that's fine. But to really kind of boil it down, basically, like at some point, computers basically took over, and humanity had to fight. So this is like that's why I said it's like a post-tech world. Like humanity had to fight back, kind of like in a Terminator type way, but humanity wins here, and they got rid of basically computers and had to adapt. Now there are like mentats, which are like human computers. And they're the ones who like their eyes kind of go blue, or excuse me, their eyes like go white and things like that. They can like calculate things, but it's also not as perfect as like a computer. But so basically I say all that to be like, and I'm not picking on Star Wars because I love Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I've seen every movie, you know, like love Star Wars. But some of the differences are it's like in Star Wars or in whatever kind of generic sci-fi, it's like the things just kind of happen because they happen. It's like, oh, they zoom into this, they beam into that. It's okay, light speed or something. Like it just does, right? And you don't question that. You just enjoy it. Where in Dune here and these shit, like they seem practical. Like they seem like it almost feels realistic, even though it's like 8,000 years in the future. I think that's right? I keep saying that. It's like the year's like 10191 or something. That would be 8,000 years, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Right. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with your ignorance.
I don't know if I was off by like an entire digit or something, but so that's what's real cool about it. It feels like a very realistic future, even though we can't even imagine having this technology, if you want to call it that. It's very practical, and I think that because there are like there's like hand-to-hand combat. It feels so brutal compared to like laser beams. Right.
Mm-hmm. When I was watching after I watched the film, I realized just how much George Lucas ripped off from Dune. Like there are a lot of elements from Star. I mean, it's like there were so many deserts. The villain is kind of Darth Vader-y. He's always hanging out like in a pool or something when he's not on duty.
It's like Arrakis and Tatooine and the sandworms. I mean, there's like basically a sandworm in a Star Wars scene where like I think the Millennium Falcon flies by it. The heroes
also in the Return of the Jedi in Jabba the Hutt, he takes them out on his skiff. What was it? What was that desert?
Maybe it's that. No, it's not.
Desert Mouth,
that's Tatooine.
Yeah, that's on Tatooine. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they're flying through the asteroid field and Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
But there's that big desert mouth.
Well, just the concept of like the hero is completely destitute and removed from his comfort, like in both Return of the Jedi and in Dune, and he has to, unite his side and come back and that
hero's journey type stuff. Joseph
hero's
Campbell.
Journey, which. You could say that about a lot of different stories. It's not
90% of movies, novels and shit.
What else? So, what were your other thoughts on Dune? Because I feel you can finish.
I love the visual effects. I thought that they were done in a way where it's like they were incorporated into the film, where it wasn't like, okay, it's just you look and you go, okay, that's just CGI. You look at it, and you're like, oh wow, this is like. The visual effects were like embedded into the frame, so it's like, okay, cool, like it's integrated, it's done in a way that doesn't feel cheap. It feels like it was adding to the story rather than just kind of being like some big explosive distraction that you see in a lot of sort of generic blockbusters.
It felt special, like that's what was nice, because it's did I just fuck up my sorry because it's 2021, it's easy to make even aesthetically pleasing kind of sci-fi movies. Like even some not like Ad Astra, not a great movie, but it's still like beautiful. But I don't know how much credit I give that. I don't know. Maybe it is really difficult to create these galaxy-scapes, and I don't mean to be too hard on it, but again, it is beautiful, but the story wasn't great and it didn't feel that special. It's just visually appealing is just visually appealing. But Dune, it felt different. It felt special. Which is really hard to do nowadays.
Right.
With something like sci-fi.
Yeah. No. And I watched it on. I don't know if I watched it in IMAX, but it was definitely a much bigger screen than usual movie screens. So it felt like an event rather than just like, cool, I'm gonna go to movies for a couple hours.
Yeah.
So I love that aspect. You know, I did feel like as if I was a kid in 1977 watching Star Wars for the first time, sort of things. All right, cool. This is going to be like a big defining pop cultural milestone, I think, that's going to be remembered and praised and recognized for years to come. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad they're making a second. It's nice to have these kind of big blockbuster movies that aren't just the next Marvel thing. I know some people, that's all they look forward to, and that's great, right? I support movie theaters. I like some of those movies. I haven't seen the vast majority of them.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see something else doing that. That's not just such and such hero with the Marvel or DC tag.
Right. It's not just another sequel or prequel or a reboot or a spin-off
or something like that.
Yeah. Let's see. I think there was something else. Oh, I want to bring this up about Zendaya. Some article, I can't remember what publication wrote this, but it was talking about how even though Zendaya was top billed, she only made $300,000 for the film. And she hardly has any lines of dialogue. But I looked it up, and she made $300,000 for 8 days worth of filming. Like, don't feel bad.
That's it.
Like, don't feel bad for us. Like, come on, like, it's so stupid.
Hold on, what's that? What's the math on that? I want to say. I'm gonna. Are you doing it?
I'm doing it. I'll do it.
Okay.
So $300,000 divided by 8. That means $37,500 a day. That's more than a lot of people make.
37,000. Jesus. All right.
I know. So, and like obviously she's going to have a much bigger role in the second film. So
definitely, yes, she is. Like that's without a doubt that she is. Yeah, I don't know. People are gonna.
I mean, it's one of those things.
They're gonna find
a woman.
Well, wait. What was that from? What was that? Vulture or something or Variety?
It sounds like it was definitely a bigger publication.
It's just to get both clicks, you know, like the bass, right? And then this bass is the yes queen, like yes, you say the thing we want to hear. And it's also gonna get the rage clicks, which is what you did, which is like that, like the angry. And now we're talking about, but I don't know if you want to sell your soul like that. That's fine. These people have to make I don't even call them journalists. What is it? I guess like a columnist or something. Yeah. Not make a living. Opinionators, sure. Which we're going to get into an opinionator in a little. But let's keep talking sci-fi. Yeah. Anything else on Dune? I mean, my personal favorite scene. I mean, this just shows my fucking dirty black heart. But is I forget the planet's name. Oh, I've been looking it up. It's like basically it's where the Sardaukar are from. It's like a prison planet.
Yeah,
and it was like they had those basically human blood pyramids where they were like collecting. Remember that? We're like collecting the blood and like putting like crossing their. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? Do you remember what I'm talking about? The Sardaukar are, and you can tell where there's a lot of influence. I think is the fair word here. I don't want to say derivative, but. They're very much like the Unsullied in Game of Thrones. They're like ultimate warriors, and which are based on the Spartans, right? Like in history, like that's what it all comes from somewhere. But that's what the Sardaukar are. Basically the Harkonnens. See, now I'm saying it the right way because I said I'm going to say it the wrong way. Hire them more or less to fight the Atreides. Family. But I just thought that scene was really cool, like that shot of the human pyramid, which reminded me. I don't know. You a Rick and Morty fan? Speaking of sci-fi, do you watch Rick and Morty?
I've only seen the first episode. I enjoyed it.
Oh, not a fan. That's fine. It's one of my favorite shows too. I absolutely love Rick and Morty.
I didn't get into it.
Well, for the listeners, the scene where I think it's one of the final episodes of season 2 or 3, maybe, where it's like all the Mortys are shielding the evil Rick, and they're all like kind of getting jabbed in the sides and stuff. I don't know if you watch it, you'll get it. If not, then just that reference is done.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that was really, really cool. There's that one actor. I don't know who he is, but he's always like he's just billed. I can imagine him just being billed. It's like, oh, okay, we need a really creepy guy. It's like, all right, let's call that guy. I forgot his name. He's in
Suicide Squad.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, his name David Dastmalchian, I think. Something Dastmalchian.
Yeah, he looks Armenian.
Yeah, I think he is. And he was in The Dark Knight briefly. He played one of the crazy henchmen.
Right. Is he in Prisoners? Have you seen Prisoners?
I think so. Yeah, that's the one with Wolverine and
Wolverine. Yeah.
And Mysterio from the new Spider-Man movies. What's his name? Gyllenhaal.
Jake. Yeah. My God, dude. That's Jake Gyllenhaal, like one of the best actors around, and you're doing the Marvel thing or whatever.
Yes,
He's playing a superhero now.
No, he's playing a villain. Mysterio.
Okay, but in a superhero movie, Mysterio. All right, fine. Okay, that's fine. I love him. He's one of my favorites. It's like they all have to go fucking do it.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I guess it's fun. You get the bag. So.
Yeah. Hey, Zendaya did it. She's never wrong. So.
Who is she?
She's Peter Parker's girlfriend, the Spider-Man's girlfriend. She plays the new diversity Mary Jane Watson.
Right.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man's Tom Holland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, that guy, creepy face guy.
Yeah.
And he's good. Anything else on Dune?
I thought what's his face Hans Zimmer did a good score. It felt like this grand sweeping score again. It's not so much that it sounded like John Williams doing Star Wars, but it had that certain feel, that sort of classic epic feel.
You need it. You need it, and I look forward to that. I can't listen to, like, when I'm writing, I can't listen to music with lyrics. Yeah. Maybe if it's like a language I don't know, like Latin or something, like opera. Even opera, like if it's Italian or Spanish or German or French, like I can't really do. But if it's like Latin, or I listen to these songs in Breton, which is like a Celtic French language. It's actually in Black Hawk Down, like, and Gladiator, that woman who does those vocals, where that's just like a made up language, actually. Okay. Yeah, Cortez Aran and stuff like that. Anyway, so I'm always looking for kind of powerful scores and songs that usually come from movies, and Hans Zimmer has makes a ton of them, and Dune was no exception.
Yeah. It was a great film, and I hope that George Lucas pays Frank Herbert some royalties for the amount.
I never really. To me, they are separate. You see the similarities.
I mean, I'm being facetious. It wasn't like he plagiarized it, but it was just like there are a few elements. At the same time, it's like George Lucas, like a lot of creators, when they find something that they really like, they're influenced. They're gonna take a little. Yeah,
it's like Star Wars. Like Star Wars is a derivative of the fucking Bible. Like it's like it all comes from somewhere, and there is this. It's a fine line sometimes between plagiarism and inspiration. I have to toe that line as a writer. Like I came out with a dystopian novel this year, right? Was this? Yeah, this year. And, I was like, holy shit! Yes, this year.
You got to get a biographer to keep track of that shit. I have one.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money. It's super expensive, but it's worth it.
My cats are my biographers. Yeah, I came out with a dystopian novel this year, and it's influenced by a lot of stuff. Blade Runner, 1984. All sorts of Handmaid's Tale, like all sorts of different either sci-fi or dystopian or futuristic.
Okay, real quick. I just want to put a pin in this real quick because I want to talk about it at some other point in this conversation.
Sure.
Did you read that article in the New York Times from a few weeks ago? It was like the bad art friend or something like that.
Oh, so I can't really read any articles from the New York Times, so I don't subscribe to it. Do you get any free? I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so
maybe it's just a certain link that I click.
You're right. You're right. So you can see some for free, but I didn't read it, and I've been meaning to, but I did. absorb it through like podcasts. Like Blocked and Reported did a big thing about that. That was the one where it was like the woman in the, was it organ kidney? No, organ, not Oregon. Oregon.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
kidney
she
transplant.
Yeah.
That was it, right? And it became like an obsession and made a group, and that was like her like raison d'etre, or however you pronounce it. Her reason for being. And then someone like ripped on and turned into like a racial thing, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So wait, so why are you bringing that up? What?
Oh, because she's suing the lady for writing a story that's based on her, supposedly inspired by her story. So I want to ask you a little bit about like, where you draw the line between like influence and like plagiarism.
She wrote a novel.
I think it was a short story, but like the main character is she donates a kidney or something like that. And
so actually, I have done. Sorry, this is like reversed in my hair. I'm trying to fix it. I have done actually intense research into this to CYA to cover CMA, cover my ass. It is, as much as I love I'm forgetting her name, I just read her book too, Anne Lamott. She has a famous, Anne Lamott is a writer, and she has a famous line that's like, you own everything that happened to you. Write your story, write your stories. You own everything that's happened to you. If people want you to write kindly about them, they should have behaved better. And that's very actually bad advice for a writer. I like it. It's a nice quote, but it's actually not legally true. So I'm going from my writer mode to my lawyer mode. That's not true. You can't just write about someone because you don't like them, especially if they're not a public figure. And it depends what it does get tricky. It's a difficult claim to bring. Of course, this would be defamation, and it would be the libel part of defamation. And again, this podcast is not legal advice. This is just kind of basic. Anyone could do this research online, but I have to say that. But you can't just take someone. And there's some examples I can use from my own research. There was this case where even some writer, I forget who, wrote a book about a therapist and this therapy sessions that they would have and these kind of group therapies, and the writer completely changed the therapist, like physically, I think changed the gender, even maybe the race, stuff like that. But if you can prove that it's based on you and other people, it's also, can other people point out that this is this person, right? It's like, that's a big part of it. So you can be sued. A famous case was, I think, Running with Scissors, which is Augustine Burroughs, I believe. That had to be like changed a lot. And then the case, there was a book about I don't know, but it's like the women with all the red hats. Do you remember that? I remember that growing up. I think it was a big deal. It was like this club of women that would wear red hats, and I forget what their shtick was. They would do something, and that was based on, and the head woman was like written as a total bitch, to be, like written as a conniving, nasty, swindler, cheating person, and it was based off of someone, and that person could locate, and brought a claim, and I think that is like one of the landmark cases. So how do we get on this? What'd you ask? Oh, like, so the bad art friend case. I don't know. It sounds like the writer, and I'm very team writer a lot of the times, but it sounds like she's a total asshole, and just like, and then she played the rape, because I think she's Asian, right? Is she Asian?
No, they're both white. However, I think
thought there was an Asian thing.
There was an Asian thing, because the author, I think her name is Melissa Eng or something Eng. She's the one who wrote.
She's Asian.
Book. She's Asian, but she's
Celeste Eng.
Celeste Eng, yeah, but she's tangential to the story though. She wasn't one of the main.
You're right. I remember her. And then so maybe someone criticized her, like the
I think she was the one who brought up race. I think she was the one who was
right. No, I think someone criticized her, and then the defense was, well, you can't criticize her because she's Asian. It's like, no, she's wrong here. Like she's being a total asshole. Something like that. I don't know. We're not doing this justice. The point is, well, this wasn't on the doc. I do want to read that story. It does very much interest me. It's a lot of different.
It's funny. I won't spoil it, but it does. Yeah. When I first read it, it seemed. I was just like, this is like a dumb petty feud. It should be like covered in a
Yeah.
local thing, and then it gets bigger and bigger. And again, I'll save that for you. But it reminded me so much of like a Seinfeld or like a Curb Your Enthusiasm sort of thing, where it's like this dumb, awkward social situation, and they're analyzing the hell out of it, and kind of like, okay, but
it's like dinner. It's like dinner party liberal arguments and things,
Right.
and yeah, it is very petty. But this person did profit off of this other person's likeness. And honestly, like, even if she sounded like she was really annoying with the kidney like it became, like I said, like her reason for existing.
Right.
Like the fact that this person made the story about her made her look really bad, not like some hero or something. Not that she is a hero necessarily, but made her look very bad. And then doubled down and was like basically defend herself. And I forget what it was, but I should look into this and we can bring it up in another episode. Because it is a very interesting story, because it includes a lot of different topics that I'm into. Like it contains defamation, and I'm kind of like social media pile-ons and Facebook groups, and obviously a racial component, because there always is.
And for me, one of the things that I liked the most about the story was just sort of like where writers get their ideas, because they always say, like, write what you know. It's like, I think that's ultimately great advice, but there is sort of like that weird gray area of like, okay, but what if what I know happened to somebody else? And I find it interesting.
You're right.
So
And it is a balance. You can't you have to well, it depends also how you're writing them. It's like one of the things Anne Lamott also says, which is funny. She's like, and if you're going to base character off a man, give him a tiny penis, because then he'll never he'll never testify during deposition that it's him, right? It's actually really smart. Like he'll never say, "Oh, that's me." It's like, so you admit that you have a tiny penis. It's like, So that was funny. And you know what, that quote that she has, I think she does kind of, it's a fun quote to see on Pinterest, but I think she does kind of hedge also. She says like, okay, you have to be careful with these things too. I want to completely change characters. But so where do ideas come from? So you asking me personally, like, where do my ideas come from?
No. I'm just talking about like the one of the themes about that particular story that interests me, of like where you kind of draw the line of like, this happened to me, or like it happened to somebody I knew. I'm going to turn it into a story, even though
I think that's the vast majority of where ideas come from, is like what happens to you and those around you and those or things you observe. Like, I think that's the vast majority, even if you're setting it, like I've said, I've written characters that are semi-autobiographical characters myself. And I've written characters that are complete different genders and races and religions and things that are, and like I've always said, I think you should be able to do that. I think that's part of being an artist, whether you're painting or playing a character. Again, playing characters a little different. You can't have a white guy put on blackface. Yes, I understand that. Yes, right. But in terms of like writing characters, you should be able to write whatever you want. And it's up to the reader, who's the consumer, to decide if it's good or not. And it's up to, like I always bring up this example. My first book, I have an Algerian Muslim character, and if an Algerian Muslim reads that and says, "Well, this isn't authentic," well, that's my fault. Like, it's not authentic. That criticize it. You can criticize whatever you want. That's not canceling. It's but it's gotten to the point where, it shouldn't be the book's not on the shelf, right? You can just not read it. So anyway, and I know I've brought that up before.
We should talk about that story, not so much as like a big news item, because this happened a while back, but just to kind of dive into sort of like the responsibilities of an artist and sort of like the risks of being an artist, and just kind of like where you draw the line of like, okay, like this, that's totally free game, and the other teams like, ooh, that gets into risky legal territory. You should be careful about that sort of thing. It's been a while since I read it, so we should dive back into that and talk more about it from like the creative side. But the reason I brought that up though is because I was talking about George. I was joking about George Lucas ripping off from
right. Frank Herbert.
Real quick though, one last thing about the bad art friend thing. Is like the bad art friend again. That sounds like so much like a Seinfeld thing. Like, it
does. Yeah, sounds like a Seinfeld episode. The bad art friend. It's become like a bit of a running joke now between me and my roommates. And dude, like, come on, like we're all creative people. You're a bad art friend, man. Like, That's good. That's
All
good. Yeah, I'm gonna read that. I've been meaning to like catch up on articles and shit. But that's a good one.
We don't want the audience to be more expert on these things than us.
Right. Yeah. So what? I guess should we keep talking sci-fi? Any other?
Talk a little more about sci-fi.
I think if more Dune stuff comes up, that we can discuss it. But other sci-fi, I mean, we already mentioned Star Wars, of course. That's like the big one. Yeah. Sci-fi is also it's such a large category, like such a large genre. A huge, probably the movie that had the biggest impact on my childhood in terms of sci-fi is Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah,
Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers, that movie. And this is a fun. So here's something I want to talk about. I thought I don't think I brought this up during our second episode with Dr. Morgan. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I brought it. Maybe it was a different episode, but anyway. So Starship. Do you know what movie I'm talking about?
Yeah, I love that.
It's also a novel by Robert Heinlein, which is a very good novel. It's different. Starship Troopers is very much a satire on militarism, like global militarism, invading other countries.
Yes, and Paul Verhoeven even said that movie was sort of like because Paul Verhoeven is from the Netherlands, I think.
Netherlands, yeah.
Yeah, and so he even said that he actually grew up during like the Nazi like World War II era. So he was kind of like, making this movie was sort of like my catharsis of sort of like critiquing and parody, like doing a satire of like.
I mean, they kind of look like Nazis. NPH's character looks like an SS officer.
Oh, absolutely.
Impeccably dressed. The Nazis,
for the long black coats.
They were horrible. They were the most evil motherfuckers in the 20th century. Well, that and the Soviets. But they look great.
Yeah.
They are very, very, very well dressed.
Yes.
Again, most evil bastards ever. But I mean, in the 20th century,
they look good doing it.
They look good doing it, right? I think that I honestly think I'm not joking here. I think that has this isn't an I think this is true. It has an appeal. Germany was an extremely poor country at this time. They got fucked after, maybe rightfully so for some, after World War I. They were extremely poor, and then you have these. You can be dressed well, get 3 square meals a day. Have something to be proud of. Again, it's all evil. I'm not saying I'm contextualizing it. I'm not saying it's good. This is very bad. That's actually dangerous, right? I'm very much against this. I very much support the troops. I'm against our infinity wars and all of this like horrible invasions. I think we should end the American empire. I'll stop there before I get into it. But there is an appeal to, you see it in the fucking commercials. I remember watching Marines commercials growing up and being like, holy crap, like I want to do that. Yeah. They look good. And the Nazis took that. I mean, they had Hugo Boss as their tailor, their personal tailor, and he designed everything. Yeah. And they look good doing it. So going back to Starship Troopers, so it is a satire on all that. And so I bring this up because it is an extremely violent movie. Yeah. It came out in 97, I think. I was probably watching it by 98, 99. Yeah. Well, I was like 8 or 9 years old. And what's so funny to me, and this is, I think, a deeper discussion I'd like to have with someone is that, so growing up, and this is back in VHS days, let's just say, because I can't, let's just say that I could get the movie in a different way, right? And it could be edited. Yeah. And so you have a movie where humans are being like literally ripped in half, their limbs burned off, their heads chopped off, their brains sucked out. Literally the brain sucked out of the head. We're like and all of that's in it, and my dad had it edited, so there's like one scene where there's boobs in like a shower, and that's out, that's gone, but or there's a couple scenes with tits, but all of like arms getting ripped off and bodies cut in half, totally cool. Like it's just so funny. I think that's so typical of like the American pop culture, where these extremely violent things are fine, but like boobs bad, like boobs scary. Ben can't see boobs at 9. And I think that's a funny later discussion. But as a sci-fi movie, huge part of my childhood. Absolutely love it. Casper Van Dien is is just one of my favorite characters, and that's Johnny Rico. I mean, to this day, actually, my fantasy football team every year is called the Roughnecks, which is what his like platoon was called, Rico's Roughnecks. Anyway, it was a great movie. Very and when I'm watching it, like, you don't really understand that it's satire at the time. You think it's like, oh, cool army guy shooting bugs and stuff.
But I think that's one of the cool things of sci-fi is that it lets you be brutal on a certain subject, but like from kind of a safe distance, though, where it's like you can watch and be like, okay, cool, it's just a fun sci-fi action movie, whatever. But it's like, oh no, it's actually making fun of like the hardcore nationalists, militarist aspects of society. And it does RoboCop, which is one of my favorite movies. That Paul Verhoeven, it does kind of.
That's a great example. That's a great example of like sci-fi kind of predicting not an exact future, but a potential future. A kind of like the ultra militarization of the police. No, they're not robots, but you can see the similarities.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely. And
it's like over the top violence.
Right. Mixed with actually very smart satire.
Great practical effects.
Oh yeah, that was Rob Bottin. Rob Bottin did the
effects. Right. He did
he did the suit. He did the suit.
He did, and the like when that one guy's like melted from the acid. Amazing. Like,
that was a great
amazing. Yeah,
and then a car hits him and he just splatters. Like that was so great.
And when RoboCop, before he's RoboCop, is just getting like lit up with shotgun blasts.
Yeah,
it's like over the top violence, but it is to serve a purpose. But but that's why, like, I mean, and that's, you could say that's a genius about like Pixar movies too. Is there's, you watch the same movie and children can see it and enjoy it in one way, and adults can. Like at Starship Troopers, I can watch that at 9 and appreciate differently than I watch it at 29.
No, definitely. And did you know that RoboCop was meant to be sort of like a metaphor for Jesus? That he was kind of like a futuristic American Jesus.
How so?
So this is actually intentional. This is not somebody coming along later.
It sounds like something that I would write.
So Paul Verhoeven, like he was so at the time Paul Verhoeven was mostly doing kind of like artsy European films, and somebody approached him about doing RoboCop. He read the script and he threw it in the garbage. He thought it was shit. And then his wife dug it out of the garbage. She read it and she goes, it's not Casablanca, but I think there's more here. So he read it again and he saw some interesting parallels with Jesus. So it's like. So for the scene where Alex Murphy, who becomes RoboCop in the film, like when he gets shot up, that's supposed to be Jesus' crucifix, his crucifixion scene. So when he gets his hand shot off, and he gets and then he gets shot in the head. That's supposed to represent the crown of thorns. But it was also meant to be kind of like a sort of like, like I said, like a futuristic American Jesus, where it's like, okay, this Jesus has guns. This Jesus has no mercy. That's the American. But then like the final climactic scene takes place in a quarry in like some kind of weird pond thing, and then you see RoboCop walking through the water. Like that's supposed to be Jesus walking through the water.
Oh shit!
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of weird little parallels that they snuck in.
That's I missed that in my, and I swear to God, this was a class that in college I didn't take this class, but I told you I've said I went to a small liberal arts school. There was a class called Jesus in Film.
Oh shit!
And I don't know if this is part of the curriculum, but I would like to check.
But it's one of those movies where it's like, again, on the surface, it's a fun, violent action sci-fi flick, but when you peel back the layers, like, oh, this is actually, there's some cool metaphors here. There's a lot of satire and poking fun of like American consumerism. It's the 80s, is the yuppie, the Reagan era, and everything. Making fun of that. And it's like, this is actually again.
That's what I've heard. It's more of. I heard it's more of like a criticism of like Reagan's America.
Reaganomics and all that.
And those are good. I wasn't expecting to talk about that, but Starship Troopers, RoboCop are excellent sci-fi.
And Total Recall, which is also directed by
Paul Verhoeven.
Love Total Recall.
Total Recall is very cool. I love the planet. I guess it's the planet, like the new one. Is it Mars? Is it Mars?
Yeah, it was Mars.
It is Mars. Oh, okay. Like the little city on it, though. Like the bar and the brothel. That's really good.
I like how they included that in the city plan. Is let's put a red light district in here, like
Yeah,
just to make sure to keep all the workers happy.
I think I don't know. Red light districts might happen naturally. It's the market, baby. That's just the market. There just needs to be a red light district.
Well, it reminds me a little bit of like, so before I moved to LA, I was living in Santa Clara, and it was kind of like a more industrial part of the city. And right down the street from me, like it's all industrial, all warehouses and stuff. There's a brewery there. It's like, holy shit, that's a great idea. A great place to put a brewery in like the industrial side. Like you go get a beer, at lunch, like in between, like that's not like what a great idea. So it's like I wouldn't be surprised if that was intentional. Like we got to put brothels, we got to put bars, we got to put strippers in here if we're gonna build a city here. So
I mean, a red light district's gonna pop up anyway. Like if you're the city, might as well tax it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like regular, it's true. Okay, what other sci-fi? I mean, I don't think we've talked about Star Wars, right?
Nah.
Again, love Star Wars. Think it's fantastic.
Yeah. But you can't huck a loogie anywhere without hitting something related.
There was that point where it was like, I mean, even still, so I've talked about how I don't start a lot of shows. I did start Squid Game, which I don't know. Do you watch Squid Game?
No, I need to watch it. Everybody keeps
it's good. It's good. Again, gonna have commentary and how do you interpret it and all those things. Also very violent.
Cool.
But I don't start a lot of shows, so I didn't like do Mandalorian. But there was that point where it was like from 2014 to like 2019, it was like a lot of Star Wars.
Right.
So like a lot of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Where everything felt like it was, if it wasn't Marvel or DC, it was Star Wars.
Yeah.
What else?
Sci-fi horror. Let's talk about that. I'm a horror guy, and I like sci-fi horror. Alien's great.
Alien is.
Oh, actually, and tying this into Dune. So, did you watch the documentary on Alejandro Jodorowsky's his failed attempt at doing Dune? It is great. I highly recommend it. If you enjoy sci-fi.
Familiar.
So Alejandro Jodorowsky, he's like this. I don't know what his ethnicity is. I think he's like part French and part like Latino, but he
sounds like usually when they have a name, like a Spanish like first name, but then like a European, either like Italian or Eastern European, they're usually like Argentinian or Uruguayan. Like they'll be like Guillermo O'Donnell. Like that was an actual Argentinian political scientist that I've read. Yeah. Guillermo O'Donnell.
But anyway, Jodorowsky, he's like this sort of experimental filmmaker. I've watched a few of his films. He's pretty cool. Pretty wacky. He's kind of like a south of the border David Lynch. Like he does like really weird, bizarre things, but it's also really fun and enjoyable. Anyway, he tried to make a Dune movie in the 70s. And the cast, and the cast that he was going to get, the people that he had working on this film was insane. It was a fucking dream team. So he was going to have H.R. Geiger, the crazy Swiss artist, he was going to design a lot of stuff for the film. And he was going to have Mick Jagger play Paul Atreides. And so he actually met Mick Jagger. He said, "Hey, do you want to be in Dune?"
Mick Jagger as Paul Atreides. Yes. Yeah, I know who Mick Jagger is.
Are you the Rolling Stones? That band, not the magazine.
As okay, I kind of want a '70s Dune, but I don't know. I think.
Well, here, hold on, because it was going to be a crazy psychedelic sci-fi.
That's what I'm saying.
And then Orson Welles was going to play the Baron.
Yeah, Baron Harkonnen.
And then they were going to get Pink Floyd to do the soundtrack.
That would have been sweet.
And so it was just like this crazy. Yeah. They were going to get a whole bunch of wild, crazy. Watch the documentary. I think it's on Amazon Prime. I think this is called Jodorowsky's Dune or something like that. But it's he just reveals like his dream cast. And again, he met with all these people. And then the reason. So at the time, Orson Welles was kind of fat and washed up in his career. And so he wasn't
doing one to do.
Exactly, yeah. So he didn't really. He tells a funny story. He's like, at the time, Orson Welles wasn't doing very much film stuff, and he goes, "But I met with him, and what I did, and I asked him like, what's your favorite restaurant?" And then he goes, "Oh, it's this Italian restaurant, this French restaurant, or something." And he goes, "Okay, I'm going to hire the chef to do personal catering for you if you do my film." And then Orson Welles like, okay, so like that's how we got.
That's pretty great. That's good.
It was Jodorowsky. He had this crazy vision, and he has like this huge book. I hope they publish this book, but it's just like designs and notes and casting lists and everything. And it was like the first time that he actually showed it publicly, like his outline for the film, the script and everything.
Sweet.
And he's just going through all these big celebrities and big names and creative names he approached, and they were going to do the film. There were a few other big people.
Why did it fall through?
It was too expensive. There were some big studios who liked it. They were excited about it, but they're like, it's too expensive. So it fell apart. But the reason you brought up Alien is because a lot of people who were associated with that film, they ended up working on Alien.
Oh,
H.R. Geiger.
Okay.
And so was one of them. And there were a few other people who were working on the film, but then like a couple years later, Ridley Scott was he was getting ready to do Alien, so he reached out to a lot of the creative team and he brought them on board to do Alien. But yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a fun watch. It's really one. It's like one of those like.
You said it's on Amazon?
I believe it's on Amazon. Yeah.
Alien, and I know we've talked about Aliens on the show during the practical effects conversation because I love both, and we've gone over it. It's very obvious. Alien is much more horror, like Monster in a Haunted House, where Aliens is much more action. I think they're both fantastic.
Yes.
Are you partial to one or the other?
I love both of them. For different reasons. But I love Alien. It's almost more of like a gothic horror story, like ghost story in a way, because and I think they even kind of intentionally did that to like make the ship, the Nostromo. Was it the Nostromo? Was that like the main tanker ship, or was that Nostromo a different ship?
I don't remember the name of the ship, but
one of those ships. But the main ship, they kind of intentionally made it look more like it was more like a gothic cathedral rather than just a straight up kind of generic sci-fi like science fiction spaceship.
Yeah, they were just talking about this on Rogan, and what they did in that, which was cool, is the 70 was it Rogan? Maybe it wasn't Rogan. It was a podcast, but they made it like sci-fi for a while had been shiny and like fun and space westerns, and that like they just showed no, the future is gonna be different, but still gonna suck. Like it's still gonna be grimy, and the workers are sitting around the table bitching about pay rightfully and working conditions. And it's, it's not like everyone in the same outfit and zooming and eating like fun food that is a cube, but it tastes like beef or something like that. Yeah, like, it still sucks. It's still
they were space truckers basically.
Yeah, they're space truckers and complaining about having the same, wearing dirty clothes. And I thought that's very cool. And of course, and it does, I think one of the bigger points too is because we talk a lot about all this diversity stuff and representation. It wasn't Rogan and representation. So this was their thought, but it's like Sigourney Weaver's character is just like a badass.
Yeah.
And it was huge that she was a woman, but it wasn't in your face. It was like it was just a natural badass character that was a woman. Yeah. And it was something she was fantastic. Yeah. And and they compare that to no, I'm making the comparison to because I saw this in a video, the show The Boys, which I haven't watched, but it sounds something that's right up our alley because it's ripping a lot on all this kind of social justice crap that gets thrown in your face when it's really not authentic at all. Where it's like and you would know better than I do. Apparently, there's a scene in one of these Marvel movies where like Spider-Man is like, "What are we gonna do?" Which is like the classic woman line. It's like, "What do we do now?" And then it's like Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman's DC, right? A bunch of them like show up and they're like basically girl boss time, right? And it's very like in your face. It's not natural. Right, like we know what you're doing. We're an alien. Sigourney Weaver's just a badass woman character.
Yeah.
And she uses her ingenuity and is just
cunning
tough. Cunning, ingenuity, and like it's just I don't know. Basically, the point is that, and that was done in 78, 79. Like so, it's been going on for a while, but it's not this like. Oh, okay, girl boss time. They make fun of that in The Boys apparently because it's like, it's a wisecrack video. The Boys where it's like girls get things done or something like they all show up and that's all the posters are and stuff like that. Yeah. But anyway, so I know, and that was a big part. And also, it's like in Alien, you have the white guy who listens to like classical music's real smart. He's the one whose chest explodes and dies. Yeah. Almost right away, and you have like women and a black guy left over, which was very like new, like that wasn't the thing yet. Again, and this is in the 70s, so this has been going on. And it was a great movie, and like people talk about it because it's fantastic, and it did create an iconic female character, and it also created a great horror movie and sci-fi movie and practical effects, and that's why it's lasted. It didn't wasn't forgotten about in a year.
Yeah. No, it's a terrific film. The diversity stuff. I'm so like you're right. Like they just did it. They didn't make a big deal out of it. And when they do it in a way where it's like it feels natural to the story, you don't notice it. You don't care. You're just like, oh, Sigourney Weaver's a cool character. Like I care about her, and I want to see her survive this. Yeah. And Sigourney Weaver ended up getting an Oscar nomination for her performance in Aliens,
which is also but that's when she wears the suit, right? Yeah. That the big
get away from her, you bitch.
Yeah, great line.
Yeah. But she's great in that film. Like when you watch it as like a dramatic performance, it's like she's got like the tough side of her, but then she also has like, because her daughter died, her real daughter died because it takes place like 57 years later. And then so she brings on Newt as like her sort of adopted daughter, and she's like, okay, she has like the sort of maternal side, and she has the tough side. It's actually a pretty layered performance. It's a great. She's great in that.
She saves the cat.
That's exactly. Yeah.
Saves the cat.
Yeah, but Alien's great. It's terrific, and there are a lot of shots in that film where you see the alien, but it's like it blends in with the design of just like the production design, and again, a testament to H.R. Geiger's artistic design, his sort of biomechanical design. Another reason why I love Alien is because it introduced the world to H.R. Geiger. I have a couple books of his works, and they've been a big influence on my horror writing.
He created the alien, how the alien looked. Yeah, he
created the alien, and a lot of the landscapes, and even the landscapes. There are a lot of designs in the film that were actually existing paintings that Ridley Scott was like, okay, let's build that. That'll be the background for this scene and stuff like that. So he took them right from the paintings.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Those are extremely rewatchable and just exceptional movies. Now, again, of course, they made like how many sequels and those sorts of things, but Alien and Aliens are excellent.
And did you know that that the third one, James Cameron was going to direct it, and then Ridley Scott was going to produce it? Like they actually talked initially about about coming together to kind of bring the two visions together, but then that ended up kind of falling apart, and then they did Alien Cubed. And then
Alien Cubed. I don't even think I've seen 3. I remember watching Alien versus Predator, but I don't think I've seen 3 already. After that,
Alien 3 is not very good, but that was David Fincher's first film, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. He'd only done music videos at the time, so that was his first feature-length film.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, no, he's great, but he hated the film, and the film's not very good.
Yeah.
But okay, what was the other thing that we were going to talk about?
Okay. Yes.
Or do you want to talk more about sci-fi stuff? Is there
no, that's good. We could always bring it up again next episode.
The New York Times thing.
The New York Times thing. I'm pulling it up. So, all right, fuck. All right, let's do it. I just hate this shit so much, and that just pisses me off. All right. So the title is the very provocative. Should classic rock songs be toppled like Confederate statues? Who's the author of this?
Something.
You sent it. You emailed it to me in like text, so I don't have that. Something like Boylan. Right?
Yes, Jennifer Finney Boylan.
Jen Boylan. Okay. So here's the thing with this. All right. So it starts with Don McLean's American Pie, which everyone knows the song. Bye Bye Miss American Pie. Beautiful song about kind of the change. There's actually a great YouTube video about this. I highly recommend. Very rewatchable about this song, like what it's actually saying, and mainly it's about the change. You eating chips during the podcast?
Yeah, is it distracting? Can you hear it?
It's kind of distracting. It's fine.
I'll pour it into something. Hold on.
I don't know if that's gonna help. That it'll help somewhat. Whatever. It's fine. Eat your chips.
Sorry, I'm a little tipsy right now, so I'm getting hungry. And
all right, that's fine. You've been drinking the Lemmies or whatever.
Yeah.
So basically, American Pie is.
Tell the name of the article first.
I said it already.
Oh, you did?
Should rock and roll be removed? So rock and roll songs be removed like Confederate statues, toppled. Should rock songs be toppled like Confederate statues? Classic rock songs.
Yeah.
American Pie is about the change in culture from 50s to 60s America, starting with the day, about the day the music died, which was the death of Buddy Holly. the Big Bopper and someone else. I forget who's in that plane. I forget.
Buddy Valens.
Yes.
Or not Buddy Valens.
Something Valens.
Yeah.
Right?
Richie Valens?
Ricky Valens? Something like that. Yeah. Died horrifically in a plane crash. And just about to change from, American Pie. Miss American Pie was the, it's not important. Watch the YouTube video about it. What the song's about. Turns out Don Mclean is a domestic abuser and kind of a bastard, allegedly, according to all of this. And so basically this article is about, well, if the artist is quote unquote problematic, do you topple the song? Which, well, no. Which she even says, like, that's the thing. Like, of course, it's very clickbaity. She says no, but then she kind of, so I was like, all right, fine. So you're reading this, and it's like, okay, great. Here's the setup. Classic song everyone knows and loves. Turns out guy's a bastard. And should the song be removed? And then no, right? But then she says, even the wife who is the victim says she doesn't think American Pie should be banned from playlists. So then the author kind of changes her position and does sort of make like should we remove songs that are problematic? And they bring up the Rolling Stones'
Brown Sugar, which Keith Richards is saying is obviously about the horrors of slavery. And she's like, how could anyone feel that? I don't know the song. You brought up the Rolling Stones. Do you know that song? Yeah, Brown Sugar. Yeah, you've heard it. If you were to hear it, you'd be like, oh, I know that song.
I'm not a big Stones fan. I know I like Paint It Black, but I don't know a lot of Stones. I'm nothing against them. I don't know a lot. I'm trying to find where she says, basically, she kind of does like a record scratch. I'm like, wait a minute, what is she saying?
So maybe this is it right here. So I'll just read the paragraph real quick.
Yeah, read the paragraph because I can't find it.
There are a lot of things I revere about Brown Sugar, and Mr. Richards' guitar riffs not least. But I can tell you that in 50 years, it has not once occurred to me that this song might even remotely be about the empowerment of Black women. If the Stones don't know why the song has to go, does simply removing it from their tour sheet go far enough?
First of all, those are two different things. So it's funny how he says the horrors of slavery and she says the empowerment of Black. Like, those are two different things.
Right.
They're not the same thing. Like, I don't understand. So she's kind of makes like a false equivalent there. Like, okay.
And here's the thing. So she's accusing the band of not understanding why their own song could be potentially offensive. And because of that, she thinks that them removing it from their set list, which apparently I guess they've done, which is stupid, but she thinks that that is not good enough. It's like, no, not only do you have to take back the harmful thing that you said, you actually have to acknowledge that what you did was offensive. It's like, come on, lady.
Yeah. So here she says, so this is where I felt the record scratch moment happen, where she's like, can I still love their music if I'm appalled by various events in the lives of Johnny Cash or Elvis or Jerry Lee Lewis, or by, of course, Eric Clapton's racist rants and anti-vaccination activism? Yeah. Of course, there's no easy answer here. It's like, yes, there is an easy answer. You just enjoy the fucking music. I don't understand how that's not an easy answer. And of course, she doesn't bring up Michael Jackson, for instance, or many of these rappers who have done really horrific shit. But even still, I love Michael Jackson for his music. Is it fact that he diddled and raped little boys? I mean, I think the evidence. I don't know. I honestly think people are just so in love with him, and I was one of them, that they're willfully blind, right? No. I don't know. I watched the documentary, but documentaries can be biased. But I'm gonna, if I had again gun to my head, it's like, did he do that shit or not? I think he did. I think he did it. I was listening to Thriller last week. I don't. So how is this even? I get the argument. I would get is well, I don't want to support them, buy their albums and the money goes to them and they're a bastard. It's well, I guess I kind of get that. So you do have to sacrifice that. Like, well, that's part of being talented. Like they get to make something that if the consumer wants, then the consumer can get. But guess what? Here's the beauty of it. You don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to, unless you got the iPod with the U2 album on it. Like you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to listen to it. And even then people are like, how dare you give me something free? Like,
right.
I mean, so, I don't know. This seemed like a really this was like a non-burger for me. It was like, all right, you had the controversial thing. And then it's like, well, how can I listen to, first of all, what the fuck did Elvis do?
Yeah.
Like I thought Elvis was so like vanilla in terms of just like kind of being like, I heard Elvis was just like, I have a huge, my celebrity crush is Natalie Wood. And she was like going to date Elvis for a little, but I think she says like Elvis was like way too immature for her. And like, I don't know if he did anything. Again, he was a white guy in the South during like segregation. I'm sure he had some opinions that maybe weren't the most progressive of 2021. Maybe not. I don't know. But
was he engaged to his cousin or married to his cousin or something?
Probably.
Like
He's from fucking Mississippi.
I was gonna say that's the South. That's like, we gotta.
That's a cheap shot. I'm sorry, that was a cheap shot.
Let's be cultural relativists here. But no, it's I think that's what it is. But again, let's just say that's what it was. I'm fine with I love. I don't Jailhouse Rock. I think that what he did was dumb and retarded, and I don't want to. That's disgusting. I don't want to do anything with that. But I'll still listen to his music. Like,
what's Jailhouse Rock? What are you talking about?
Elvis.
Yeah. What about it though?
I'm saying, like, even if Elvis did those terrible things, I can still listen to Jailhouse Rock. It's a cool song.
Yeah. I mean, look at this fucking woman. She's probably on the side, like the political side, at least the overtly political side of like so many of these artists. So now for like once there's this new thing where like, because we learn, like you have to understand, we didn't used to know shit about celebrities. Like we didn't know their stuff. They weren't on Twitter. They weren't on Instagram. There was some paparazzi, and a lot of it was already like tailored to what the celebrities wanted anyway. So you didn't know this stuff. And now that you know it, it's like, what about conservatives or not extremely left-wing people who have to like listen to all of this crap, and then like they don't not see the movies. They don't not listen to the music. Like I know I have family who's very Republican conservative, and they love Springsteen. I mean, we're from New Jersey, and they're just like, well, we don't listen to his politics, like, but we love the music, we love him. Like it's right. And now that because like you learn that Don McLean's a domestic abuser, like we can't listen to a song that came out fucking 50, 60 years ago. Like, and again, you see here, she isn't making, I mean, look at the title. This isn't, should I listen to it? I don't give a shit if she listens to it, right? That's fine. You don't have to. She's comparing it to Confederate statues, which means no one can listen to it. Right? No one can enjoy the Confederate statue. I personally don't. I actually think Confederate statues are one of the few exceptions to the censor rule. We might disagree on that. That's a whole different thing. But so she's picking something that's even so like easy to argue against. And comparing it to pop music or rock and roll, like rock music. I mean, like, no, because these guys did these things, no one gets to enjoy it. That's what toppling like Confederate statues mean. It means I have a problem with it. You don't get to listen to it.
Right, exactly.
Which is such a like, oh my God, where are we going? Like, where the fuck are we going with this stuff? Like, it's so disturbing to me.
And this is what I think doesn't get talked about enough in conversations about cancel culture, and just how unbelievably selfish it is. It's not simply like I'm fine with somebody saying, I don't like that artist, I'm not going to listen to their music. Fine, cool. That's your own sensibility.
Boycotting is allowed. I've always said every episode, boycotting's not cancel culture. Totally cool.
But it's not so much. It's not like I'm offended by this comedian, therefore everybody else has to be offended by it. Like that's the ridiculous part.
Yes, and that's what's happening in this article, which didn't even click at first. But then when you look at the comparison, what she's saying is like, well, this is the same argument that the conservatives were making for years. It's like, no, it's corrupting people. It's corrupting the youth. It's It's making white women want to sleep with black men. It's it's like with rock and roll or music. It's the devil's music. It's all like it's like, no, lady, like you just like that's what they're the new Salem. Like they're the new evangelicals, the social event. It's honestly kind of like this. We call it cancel culture and wokeism, but it is kind of like a social conservatism in a way.
Yeah.
Like in a way, it's you're choosing what other people can absorb and enjoy, which is so not liberal. Like it's so weird.
Yeah,
it's so strange to me. And is she coming down hard on the rock music equals, this equals that? No, but she's posing the question.
Yeah,
she's kind of leaving it open. She doesn't say, well, it's not always easy. Yeah, we learn more about people's private lives, and sometimes it does make it harder to enjoy their art. But in the end, like, we have freedom of speech, and you should be able to enjoy what you want, and the market will decide. If someone, for instance, I like the Cosby Show. I'm going to be honest. I might still watch the Cosby Show. No, the Cosby. Yes, the Cosby Show is great. I'm not going to say Cosby. It's great.
The Cosby Show. The show is great.
Yes,
the show is great.
Cosby Show is great. I got into this argument with someone last year or 2 years ago with Michael Jackson. I'm like, you're telling me you're going to sit there and tell me that you're not listening to Thriller? You're not listening to Billie Jean? No. I don't believe it. I don't believe that you're not listening to Smooth Criminal. I don't believe that you're not listening to Bad. I think you're lying. No. And you're hiding it.
Also, because you're quick tangent. Because you're going to be in LA. You're going to be in LA next week. The house that was featured in the Thriller music video. Yeah, that's not too far from here. We can drive there.
Let's do it. Do you have a car?
Echo Park. I have a car. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So I was looking at stuff. I'm like, man, LA's a big city.
It's fucking big.
I'm like, oh shit, this is far.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I live in a place where it's like most of the cool stuff is within 30 minutes. It's not too far.
Yeah.
But Echo Park is a cool neighborhood. We should probably check out, and that's where the Michael Jackson house, the Thriller house, is. So, but
is Echo Park like all
hipster?
All like hipsters, yeah.
Very hipster. But it's it's funny. Like, I live in Highland Park, which is kind of like an up and coming hipster paradise. And like my parents, they visited a few times. They're like, Joe, it's like you hate hipsters. But you always like hanging out in neighborhoods where hipsters live. It's like,
it's kind of like, it's cool, but it's like, it's kind of like my mom used to have the saying. It's like France is too good for the French. It's like it's so beautiful and lovely, but you have to put up with the French people. It's like at the same time, like they're the ones who made it. That I know. Okay, and I love France and I love the French. My French brothers, but I'm very. I've France gave us our ideals here in America, and it was kind of a codependence of revolution. But that being said, sometimes they really suck. Anyway, I was looking up stuff in LA. I was looking up some bar. Are you near? Do you ever go to El Hermosillo?
Yes, I've been there. It's cool. It's very close by.
It looks really. I was just looking up like cool shit in Highland Park and other things I want to do. Yeah. A bunch of I was watching the Anthony Bourdain episode, the Koreatown one, which was 7-8 years ago now, and some of the stuff unfortunately closed. Yeah. Like one of those Korean restaurants was there for 41 years and it closed because fucking COVID. Because these idiots there, like, oh my god, like that's an institution. It was a old school, beautiful. Korean restaurant, family owned, passed down 4 fucking decades, and it closed in 1 year because of COVID restrictions.
Yeah, there have been a few other places like that where it's like, oh, this is like an iconic jazz club, for 60 years, but it closed down. It's like, oh, come on,
what a sin.
But yeah,
do I have to get like my asshole temperatured when I'm there to get into a restaurant?
Yeah, and then we'll practice here though at my place.
I'll be nice. I'll be nice and loose.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. That's what they make you do in the city. right in the butt. All right, you're good. Come on. All right, sir. Drop, sir. Everyone has to do it. Sir, drop. Okay. Don't make it. All right. Thank you, sir. Good boy. Go inside now.
And one other thing, before you come to LA, you have to watch Under the Silver Lake.
I'm watching it right now, actually.
Okay, cool.
I started it last night.
Did you really?
I started last night. I swear to God.
Okay, all right.
Who's finishing it tonight? Andrew Garfield.
Oh, all right. Okay. I would have accepted Spider-Man, but all right.
No, dude. I love Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
He's in Silence, which is like one of my favorite movies.
Oh.
Silence is a great. Do you even know what I'm talking about? Silence.
No.
Oh yes, it's like this. It's like this. I know Spider-Man. I did see every one of the Spider-Mans. No, and Social Network. He's great.
Yeah.
He's a great actor. Silence is a book. One of my favorite books. It's a fuck. I almost said De Niro. Not De Niro. Scorsese movie about the Jesuit priests in Japan.
Oh,
it was like a Scorsese passion project. So it didn't get it's Adam Driver, Andrew Garfield. It didn't get the attention that other, because it's not, The Irishman or something. But it's a beautiful movie. If you're like a Catholic or Christian, and I have a lot of, I went to a Jesuit law school, and I have a lot. Did you really? Well, not law school, but did you go to Jesuit school?
I went to Santa Clara University, which supposedly has a really good law school. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Is it Jesuit?
It's Jesuit, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think
Jesuits.
I think they're cool. They're like they were always real big on like education, not just like the crazy Catholic shit. They were like, yeah, we're that, but we're also like, let's learn science and stuff too. And
they're like more modern Catholics. They're
their nickname is God's Marines too. They go into like really hostile situations and stuff. And I mean, that's part of Japan. Like they were in Japan, the Portuguese Jesuits. But anyway. Aside, great movie. It's one of the few movies I'm not that manly. Like I'm not a big crier for movies. Right. I'll get emotional, but like Silence makes me cry. It's very powerful in the religion, and I think that like touches a nerve with me a lot, strikes a nerve with me a lot.
I'll watch it simply because of Scorsese. Like I'm gonna go through his catalog. I've watched a bunch of his movies, so I'll watch it just for that.
Great. But, it's really moving. It's not it's not he did The Departed, right?
Yeah.
It's not The Departed. It's not The Irishman. It's none of that. But it's still a beautiful movie. He wanted to make it for years, and he finally did. And then Andrew Garfield's the lead.
Okay, all right.
And he's really, really good.
Wow.
As a priest, yeah. I'm watching Under the Silver Lake. I did what I do. I've been doing like LA centric, which is like LA centric. Yeah, tons of movies. A lot of movies do take place in LA, which is true. But I did Chinatown.
Oh, love that movie.
Classic. Yeah, Chinatown. I'm doing Under the Silver Lake. I think I'm going to do True Romance. I think that's good. Yeah, I mean, I've seen.
I passed by the hotel in the big climactic scene.
I don't know. I've never seen True Romance.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a hotel there.
I've never seen it.
But I've passed by that hotel several times.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. Like one of the cool, and again, like there's plenty to shit on about LA and California in general. But
I will. Don't worry, I will.
And I shit on it too. But there are a lot of.
I shit on Jersey, and everyone. I mean, when I rip on other places, I live in New Jersey, and people. I didn't realize. I think I've said this before, and then we'll get back to California. I didn't realize how much people hated New Jersey till I left. It's like people have never been. I'm like, oh my god, like it's not a joke. Like people just rip on New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm like we can say that. I'm like, wow, have you ever been there? Like, no, but it's fucking New Jersey. I'm like, oh fuck, all right.
Yeah,
but that's where it all comes from. That's why I hate Australians and California and all that shit, because I'm also jealous.
Yeah,
I'm not jealous of the policies and all that crazy shit, but growing up, I wanted nothing more than to live at the beach.
Yeah,
and live somewhere where you can live in Southern California and be at the beach every day.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I loved that. Because I used to cherish going to. Now I basically live there. But I cherished like those few weeks in the summer. I would go to the shore here, we'd say Jersey Shore, and I was like, "Fuck! I wish I could live somewhere." Like I was always jealous of the kids who grew up here and stuff like that. And I've told you I wanted to be out of Rocket. Like I wanted to live, and my dad had a place on the boardwalk, and I went surfing and skateboarding, all that. And like to me, that's just like Southern California or like Hawaii or something like that. So
we should definitely hang out on the Pacific Coast Highway here, Highway 1 here.
Okay.
Just go through Santa Monica.
Get murdered.
Yeah, get murdered. We'll wear skinny bikinis. We'll put our cleavage out and everything. It's like whenever I drive home to the Bay Area, it's like a 5-hour drive. I always take Highway 1 for at least part of that drive because it's just like it's just pure California. It's just
I do.
Surfers on one side and then mountains on the other side. It's like this is.
I want to do meth in Venice Beach and heroin and Skid Row.
And then anal in my place. Yeah. No, but...
so you've been making those jokes a lot. And
Yes.
Can I lock
Jokes?
that doggy? Can I lock that doggy door? Can you fit through that?
Oh, I got ways into that garage, into that basement.
Oh God. Yeah, no, I'm very excited. I've never been to California. I've always wanted, I think like most Americans, it holds a special part in the American psyche and the American imagination. So much culture comes from it, which is why I rip on so much of the stuff, because it's a shame.
Yeah,
like maybe I've never been there. But they're like statistics. People are leaving. People are flooding it. A lot of these beautiful, amazing cities are getting fucked. I think San Francisco is a little different from LA. LA is a lot more spread out and it's bigger. But like, I don't know. I told my dad's favorite city is San Francisco. I've never been there either. Of course, never been to California. I'm like, Dad, I don't think it's what it was in the 70s. Like, it's not the same thing.
It wasn't even what it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When I was a kid,
right.
like San Francisco was such a cool place.
How far were you from there growing up?
I was about like 50 miles, probably about an hour away. Away from San Francisco. So I've been there like, I don't know, 2 dozen times, a bunch of times. Even for field trips, like to the zoo, to the science museum and things like that there. So I've been there a bunch of times and I had friends who lived there. But yeah, it just seems like the place that it was 10 years ago compared to today is completely different. Like, I do not feel comfortable going to San Francisco today. Maybe certain parts, or if I know that I'm going to be staying with somebody who knows the city really well. But it's like, I don't feel comfortable.
I know some people, and I know some people who are like super, super progressive, like very progressive, and they're like, San Francisco is a shithole. That place sucks. Like, and I do want to read that book, San Francisco. Have you heard of it?
Oh, by Mike Schellenberger?
Yeah, it sounds really good.
It's good.
I listened to the pod. I listened to him on Rogan, and he's really, and again, he's coming from, he dedicated his life to like environmental and homeless causes, very progressive, all of that. Like, he's not some crazy right-wing guy who wants to shit on progressive. It's like, no, he saw it firsthand. He was in these, you want to talk about systems, the homeless populate, like the homeless whole issue is a system, that the money that they pump into it, and it's just to keep people employed and to go and enable, and it's all like, it doesn't mean there aren't real problems, but the vast majority of the problems are mental illness and drugs. It doesn't mean there's not the occasional person who lost their job, but there are more resources for those people. Like I've said, I do work with a very vulnerable population. We have some homeless clients and vulnerable women, and there are shelters, there are, but you can't be doing drugs, and they choose to do drugs. Like,
they
I don't know.
They let you do drugs.
Like, and if you're gonna pick it, and then if you get your tent cleaned and you get food delivered to you, it's like, hey, not so bad. While there is still rape and murders going on, but they overlook that. They don't talk about that, and it's the same populations hurting each other. But no, if you criticize it, then you're whatever you want to call it, bigot, racist, whatever, even though a lot of it's white on white crime or black on black crime or whatever it is. How do we get into this? Fuck. Talking about California, naturally we'll start talking about the homeless population. And the homeless issue.
But
if I don't get raped or stabbed, I say it's a win when I visit. Is that
you're gonna get raped? If you're gonna stay at my place, you're gonna get raped.
Okay, stabbed. If I don't get stabbed.
If you're not gonna get stabbed, we'll consider that a win.
Okay.
That gets a little poked, but not the way I think.
I'm counting that as rape. I want to go on the record and say that's rape.
Which hole? But what if
any hole? It doesn't even have to hit a hole. It doesn't even have to be near a hole.
Okay, what if it's not in an existing hole? Doesn't matter. It creates another hole.
That's worse. That'd be worse. That'd be worse than
no.
rape.
You're not gonna get raped. No. You're not gonna get raped or murdered.
Well, we'll see.
No. Highland Park's cool. It's a cool neighborhood.
I was checking out like bars and stuff, and
we got cool stuff
restaurants. Here. I want to hit, whatever. I'll be back. I want to hit some of the classics.
Oh yeah, the place I want to take you to that's non-negotiable. 2 places I want to take you to.
Let's hear it.
Okay, the first one is the Rainbow Bar and Grill. It's not a gay bar. It sounds like it.
Man.
I know. I hate to let you.
Wait, there's a place called the Rainbow Bar and Grill in Los Angeles, and it's not a gay bar or restaurant?
It's not a gay bar. It's not.
Are you sure?
Positive. Absolutely 100% positive.
Okay.
Because maybe I don't know when the Rainbow became associated with gays. I don't know when that happened.
The 60s.
You think so? Okay,
I think
well,
so.
well, because this bar's been around since at least the early '70s, if not the late '60s. It's an old school rock and roll bar that's been there since.
Where is
been
it?
there. It's on Sunset Boulevard
Okay.
in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Tons of rock stars used to hang out there.
Can I see the Hollywood sign?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we'll pass by.
I just want to look at it. I just want to go, hey, there it is. All right.
Yeah, we'll pass by. We can even hike there. It's actually a pretty cool hike.
No,
You don't want to hike there?
No, I don't want to hike there.
Okay, all right, that's fine. That's fine too.
No.
It's an easy hike. It's like an hour and a half. Okay. Okay, all right. That's fine. Yeah, but yeah,
I'm not coming there to hike.
We'll definitely be some areas where you can see it. But anyway, the Rainbow Bar and Grill is it was a place where a lot of rock stars used to hang out back in the '70s and '80s. And there was a drinking club that was called the Hollywood Vampires, and Keith Moon, Keith Moon and Alice Cooper was the president of this drinking club, and then Keith Moon from the Who and George Harrison and a bunch of other rock stars. Like whenever they were in town together in Hollywood together, they would go there and they would have drinking contests, and it's cool. So like the Rainbow, it's like there's the main restaurant area, and it's like a sleazy hard rock cafe, just tons of rock and roll memorabilia, signed guitars,
like a legit one. It's like a legit hard rock.
A legit one, yeah. From like it's been like 50 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So rock stars used to hang out there because they would do shows at the Roxy or at the Whiskey, and they'd go to the Rainbow afterwards, just drink and get fucked up. And then you go upstairs, and there's another bar, a little stage, and then right above that there's this little cubby with a couple of tables. And that's where the Hollywood Vampires used to hang out. That's where they used to do their little drinking club, drinking contest. And so the place is just filled with rock and roll history. And it was the place so Lemmy used to hang out there. He used to live off of Sunset for like the last 10 years of his life. He would go there every single year until he died. Every night he would go
every
there.
night.
Every night.
How long did he live for?
He was in his 60s. He was. I'm surprised he lived that long. But
for that, he was British, right?
Yeah, he was British.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
they live forever. Those people.
But he used to go there every single night.
Inbred genes or something. But then they die faster. I'm like a third British almost or something.
Oh, okay, so yeah,
I have that superpower.
Yeah. But Lemmy used to go there and used to get fucked up there every night for like the last 10 years of his life. And there's a bronze Lemmy statue there. And then the outside lounge, they did this beautiful Lemmy mural, and it's called the Lemmy Lounge. But it's just such a cool rock and roll place.
It's on Sunset, right? Well, that's one of my things. I want to do Sunset Boulevard.
We're gonna go to Sunset Boulevard.
Is it near is the Troubadour on Sunset Boulevard?
It is not, but it's in that area. Troubadour, the Whiskey. The Viper Room, those are on Sunset. The Troubadour is a little farther away, but it's not. It's in that general area though.
Okay. Yeah, we see where Rivers Cuomo died. Rivers Phoenix. Rivers Cuomo. Rivers Phoenix.
Yeah, the Viper Room.
Maybe. All right. My battery's getting kind of low.
Okay.
We call it an app.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right. Well, that was episode 12.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah. Stay reckless. Fight the crits.
Yeah, stay reckless, Ben, and fight the crits. All right,
reckless,
bye, everyone.